Nice guys finish last is a phrase often associated with the dating scene, but it actually also applies to football big time. Most times, being an a-hole is what gets you far, while being a good guy gets you nowhere. We saw it in the just concluded transfer window, and we've seen it several times before. Well, let's take a look at some of those scenarios. These are 7 times good boys were punished in football. Of course, we'll start with Marc Guéhi. It was very obvious that he desired a move to Liverpool this summer, but being a good guy, he decided to go about it in a professional manner. He continued to play for Palace and even captained them to a Community Shield victory against Liverpool. Everything was in place for him to make his move to Merseyside on deadline day, but in the end, Palace said no. Reports say that Oliver Glasner threatened to leave the club if the captain was sold because they just didn't have any replacement for him. And that was it. Palace refused to sanction the move even though Guéhi had already recorded a farewell video. Of course, the player was devastated. Yes, he definitely loves Crystal Palace, but Liverpool is obviously a massive step up. But in the end, being a good guy cost him the move. Imagine if he'd have taken the route of Alexander Isak or Johan Visser and decided he would no longer play for the club again. He definitely would have ended up being sold for sure. And Guéhi's not even the only England international who was done dirty like this summer. Can you guess who the other guy is? Take a shot at it in the comments and we'll see if you're right soon. While you're there, if you aren't already subscribed to the channel, go do that right away so that you never miss out on our amazing content. Right, now let's talk about Andriy Lunin. In the absence of Thibaut Courtois in the 2023-24 season, the Ukrainian goalkeeper stepped up incredibly. He made 8 saves against City in the quarterfinals of the Champions League and also saved 2 penalties in the shootout in that game. Before that, he had equaled Courtois' record for 9 saves in a single Champions League game in the round of 16 against RB Leipzig. He was one of the main reasons Madrid made it to the final that year, only for the coach to deny him the biggest game of his career, playing Courtois ahead of him in the final. At that point, Lunin was in high demand. A lot of clubs wanted to buy him that summer, but Real Madrid insisted on keeping him. Well, Lunin decided to be a good guy, so he signed a contract extension that summer, which would keep him at the club until 2030. What was his reward for this? 7 La Liga games and 2 Champions League games in the following season. This guy could really have been playing regularly for a Champions League club, but he chose to be a good guy and ended up warming the bench for Real Madrid instead. There's one more goalkeeper on this list, but before we talk about him, let's first talk about Marco Reus. You see, Reus is famous for his loyalty. He moved to Dortmund when he was just 23 years old and was there for more than a decade. In his prime, he was sought after by some of the biggest clubs in the world, but he turned them all down to remain at Dortmund. During this period, he saw many of his teammates leave the club. Lewandowski, Gundogan, Götze, Aubameyang, name them. They all left and went to win trophies at bigger clubs, but Reus stayed even though the only trophies he was winning were domestic cups. Well, after all his loyalty, when the club felt they no longer had any use for him, they refused to offer him a new contract, forcing him to leave the club in 2024. Reus could easily have had a much better career if he had said to hell with loyalty and jumped ship in his prime, but he decided to be a good guy and eventually got punished for it. Could this be why Trent decided to make his move to Real Madrid when he could? What do you think? Anyway, remember we said there's another England international in this video? Well, that guy is Kobbie Mainoo. The 20-year-old midfielder has not been getting enough game time under Ruben Amorim, and because of that, he told the club that he would like to leave this summer. Interestingly, he didn't even ask for a permanent move. He asked to go out on loan so that he could get some game time and maybe get a call-up for the World Cup next summer. Guess what? The club said no to him and stopped him from making a move. This simple decision from Man United might cost Mainoo a place at the 2026 World Cup. Maybe he should have been a bad guy, because when the club feels like they no longer need you, they're so brutal with how they cut the player off. We saw it with Garnacho, Rashford, Sancho and Antony. They were made outcasts at the club. club. Honestly, sometimes you just can't blame players for being bad guys, because whenever the roles are reversed, the clubs never play good cop. Had Mainoo chosen to be a villain, he almost certainly would have got his move this summer and would have had a higher chance of making the England World Cup squad. But this video's not just about players. Coaches too get punished if they're good guys. Take Xavi for example. In January 2024, following a string of bad results, he announced that he would leave Barcelona at the end of the season so that another coach could come and elevate the levels of the team. Well, in the following months, Barcelona began to play better. They beat PSG in the first leg of their Champions League quarter-final fixture and were leading on aggregate in the second leg before Araujo's unfortunate red card. Because of these performances, club president Joan Laporta pleaded with Xavi to stay for at least another season. Because of his love for the club, Xavi heeded and reversed his decision in April. What was his reward? A sacking. He was sacked the following month by that same president who begged him simply because he had made some statement that didn't sit right with him. If Xavi had decided to be a hard guy and ignored Laporta's pleadings, he wouldn't have a sacking on his CV right now. But he decided to be a good guy, and now his resume is a little tainted. Speaking of former Barcelona players reminds us of a very interesting incident involving Ronaldinho. When he was at Atletico Mineiro, he took advantage of Rogério Ceni's kind-heartedness to create a goal for his team. He asked the goalkeeper for a sip from his bottle, and Ceni, being a good guy, gladly gave it to him. Moments later, Ronaldinho punished him for that. Seeing as he seemed to have innocently gone for a sip of water, the opponents didn't pay attention to Ronaldinho, who was about 20 yards offside. But as you know, you can't be offside from a throw-in. So the Brazilian maestro received the ball so high up the pitch and had enough space and time to set up a goal for Mineiro. If Ceni had pushed Ronaldinho away and refused him a sip of water, everyone would have called him an arsehole. But that goal would certainly have been avoided. Sometimes you just gotta be the bad guy. We'll now wrap this up with Gianluigi Donnarumma. He moved to PSG in 2021 and was a faithful servant for 4 years, helping them win multiple trophies, including their first ever Champions League. Donnarumma made huge saves, stopped penalties, and put his body on the line several times for PSG on their way to completing the European treble. But the moment they signed a new goalkeeper, he was banished from the club, not even included in the squad for the UEFA Super Cup. And what makes this worse is that the Italian had no problem fighting for his place at the club. He even offered to reduce his salary in order to stay in Paris. But the club didn't flinch. They still forced him out in the worst way possible. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're not saying that you should never be a nice guy. We're just saying that sometimes nice guys finish last, even in football. Do you know of more good guys who have been punished in football? Share their names with us in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Also, turn on the bell notification so that you never miss out on new content. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye. Do you want to make money with affiliate marketing? Join the Goal90 Shop affiliate program and start earning today. Get your unique affiliate link and exclusive discount coupon to share with your audience. Every sale made through your link earns you a 10% commission. No limits, just real earnings. Don't miss out. Turn your influence into income now. Do you want to make money with affiliate marketing? Join the Goal90 Shop affiliate program and start earning today. Get your unique affiliate link and exclusive discount coupon to share with your audience. Every sale made through your link earns you a 10% commission. No limits, just real earnings. Don't miss out. Turn your influence into income now.